Okay, so good morning. So let's start by recapping what we had started last time. So we were talking about the Bellman-Ford algorithm. And remember, we wanted to talk about this algorithm because so this is used to compute the single source shortest path from a source vertex to all the other vertices in the graph, which are reachable from S. Uh, and we saw that, okay, Dijkstra suffers from this limitation that it cannot handle the cases when there are negative length edges in your graph. Yeah, so Dijkstra might produce the wrong shortest path in those cases, and so we need a more sophisticated dynamic programming algorithm to solve that problem. Also recall that there was this issue of negative cycles. So if there are negative cycles in your graph, then the shortest path problem is not well defined, because the shortest path could potentially be minus infinity for some of the vertices. And so we sort of defined this modified problem where we said that, okay, either we return the shortest path from S to all the vertices or some vertices, or we return that there is a negative cycle in my graph. So if there actually exists a negative cycle, then we are not, um, we don't have the liability to produce the correct shortest path. But then we should output that, hey, there is a negative cycle. Okay, uh, great. So we sort of saw that, okay, we started talking about the Bellman-Ford algorithm, and we said that, well, this is nothing but a dynamic programming algorithm in action, right? And how did we define the dynamic programming? So how did we define the subproblems? Well, we define the subproblems as, so we use this notation, right? Path v comma I. So what is this subproblem supposed to mean? This subproblem is supposed to mean the shortest path length from S to V that uses at most I number of edges. Okay, so we also saw that typically, the first attempt would be to use just one parameter to define your subproblem. So I could have defined my subproblem as just path V, which would have been the shortest path from S to V. But then, we saw that it's a bit tricky to write subproblems, or it's a bit tricky to write recurrences if we don't use this second parameter, which in some sense controls the length of the shortest path. When I say length, I mean the number of edges on the shortest path. Okay. Now, once we have defined our subproblem like that, then we saw that, okay, the recurrences are relatively straightforward. Okay, so what is the recurrence saying? The recurrence is saying that, well, your path v comma I, which is the optimal shortest path from S to V that uses at most I number of hops, yeah, either that could just inherit a the solution to a smaller subproblem, which is the shortest path length from S to V that uses at most I minus one number of edges. Okay, remember this at most is kind of important here. So there is another way to define this whole thing, um, by defining path vi as the shortest path from S to V that uses exactly I number of edges. That's also a valid subproblem definition, and you can write recurrences, but there are some technical conveniences for which we define it like this. Yeah, also in the book it's written like that. So I just decided to stick to this thing. Okay. So yeah, so the one case could be that the shortest path from the S to V shortest path using budget of I is actually not using the full budget. It actually uses the budget up to I minus one. So it just inherits the optimal solution from a smaller subproblem. Or it could be that it actually uses the full budget, which is I number of edges. Yeah. And then we switch to a smaller subproblem to a different vertex. And what is this different vertex supposed to mean? Well, again, if I look at my any optimal solution, then this is the situation. This is the second situation. So suppose this is W, right? So what we do is we compute the I minus one budgeted solution up to W, and then we simply append the last edge to this solution. Okay, so that gives me the shortest path from S to V. So that's the second case, right? And well, then the question, of course, is that, well, in this picture I'm showing you a specific W, but I mean, I don't know which W this is, right? So we have to go over all such Ws. And what do I mean by all such Ws? By all such W, I mean those vertices which has an outgoing edge to V. Okay, so I will take all those cases. So you can look at the adjacency list of V. You can look at the incoming edges, and essentially you are taking the min over all those cases, taking the min of this quantity over all those cases. Yeah, and of course then you are taking a min overall. So that's your recurrence relation. Okay. Okay. Any questions about this thing? Okay, so last time we wrote the base cases. So today I will just make a small modification to the base case, not a modification really. So, okay, so what will be the base cases? So can somebody remind me what is the base case? Yeah, just to make sure that we are all awake and on the same page. Yeah, can somebody tell me the base case? Yeah, zero edge. Okay. So how should I write the base case is the question. So what is going to be path v comma 0, for example? What value should I write here? Path v comma 0, should it be 0? Yeah, it should be infinity, right? So remember, so look at the definition. What does it mean? It says that what is the shortest path length from S to V using 0 number of edges. So unless V is equal to S, then there is no way of reaching any other vertex, right? So yeah, so this is equal to infinity. And the other cases, and the other base case is, so here is where I'm going to make it slightly different. I'm going to write it slightly differently. So what Kevin is saying, that path S comma I should be equal to 0 for all I. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say path S comma 0 is equal to 0. Okay, so I'm not writing this for all I, and the reason is, well, remember, for now we are assuming that, okay, the graph does not have a negative cycle. If the graph does not have a negative cycle, then surely you can write the base cases as path S comma I is equal to 0 for all I. Okay, you can safely write that because you are assuming there are no negative cycles in your graph. But it turns out that, again, this is just a technical requirement. It turns out that this same algorithm, we are going to adopt it slightly so that it also detects negative cycle if there are any. And in such case, if I just initialize path S equal to 0 to be 0, then things become a bit messy. Okay, so we will consider S as part of this recurrence as well. Yeah, it does not matter, it's still correct. And the initialization, I will just make path S comma 0 to be 0. Okay, is this point clear? It's a very small point. I mean, it does not affect the recurrences or anything, but those of you who might be uncomfortable that, okay, why can't I just make path S comma I to be 0 for everyone? The answer is you can do that, except the fact that when we adopt this algorithm to also detect negative cycles, there you have to be a little careful. Okay, so just in order to make a clean representation of all those cases, I'm just saying path S comma 0 equal to 0. Okay, and I will update path S comma 0 as I go over the algorithm. Okay. So Kevin has this question that the first case, so remember, so note that we have written these two cases for my recurrence, right? So Kevin had raised a question that why do we really need the first case? Okay, so again, Kevin, yeah, the answer is even if you don't have the first case, then technically it's correct. But again, in the case when you adopt this algorithm to also detecting negative cycles, there for the source vertex, you have to be a bit careful. Okay, for the other vertices, this will just be fine. But for the source vertex, you have to be a bit careful. So hopefully once we do that adaptation, we see how to detect negative cycles, this point will become a bit more clear to you. Okay. So this is just to make the thing clean, but you are absolutely right. In the absence of negative cycle, you can get rid of the first case. You don't need the first case of recurrence. Yeah, you can as well write the second one and get away. Great. Okay. So, okay. So first of all, let's just talk a bit about how to why is this recurrence relationship correct? Yeah. And again, I'm doing this because I still see that some of you are a bit confused about how to write proof of recurrences. So first of all, let me take this opportunity to say one thing. So many of you in the exams and also sometimes in the homework, you have used induction to prove correctness of recurrences. See, induction is not required to prove the correctness of recurrences, because remember, I am not claiming that, so the recurrence has nothing to do with the algorithm itself. To prove the correctness of a recurrence, all you need to prove is this local relationship. And what do I mean by local relationship? That, okay, the optimal solution from S to V, which uses at most I vertices, this is equal to some immediately smaller sub-problem. So there is no induction here really. You just need to prove this property. That's all. Okay. Induction, well, that comes in if you want to really prove the correctness of your algorithm, because there you are running loops and stuff like that. But यहाँ पे कोई induction नहीं है. This is just true for every I. Okay. So you take any I and you just prove this relationship. That's all. So in the future, when you see, I mean, of course, it's not wrong to say that I prove by induction, but that's an overkill. You don't need induction here. You just fix some I, and then you just prove this relationship. That's all. Okay. So, okay. So why is this relationship true? I think it's pretty obvious, but let's just go over it once. So the first case is pretty obvious. So, okay, again, the optimal solution from S to V, which uses at most I edges, can have a few cases. So the first case is actually, it does not use the full budget. In that case, it's pretty clear that this should be true. Yeah. So the optimal solution with a smaller budget is actually the optimal solution with the larger budget. And what are the other cases? Well, the other cases are it actually uses the full budget, which is I edges, and then there could only be these many options for the penultimate edge. Yeah, because remember, I have to reach V at the end of the day. So how am I going to reach V? The way I am going to reach V is only via these vertices which are in the neighborhood of V. Only these are possible options, right? And now again, it's a typical cut paste contradiction type of argument. So suppose if I forget about the last edge in this optimal solution, path V comma I, suppose it is not the optimal solution for the remaining sub problem. So ये जो remaining path है मेरा, suppose it's not the optimal solution for path W comma I minus 1, and suppose there exists a different optimal solution, then again, yeah, because I have budgeted it to I minus 1, I know that that optimal solution can only use I minus 1 edges. So I can take that alternate path and I can append the last edge, and I can have a better solution for path V comma I, which means that, okay, the initial assumption was also wrong. So that's a typical cut paste argument. There is nothing fancy going on here. So I'm not writing it out. I think everyone should understand this by now. Okay. Okay, great. So then let's just write the pseudocode of Bellman-Ford. Okay, so again, it's just a matter of writing a couple of for loops, but let's do it nonetheless. Okay, so let path I, path a two-dimensional array. So what is the size of this array? So what is the size of my DP table? Yeah, it's n times, it's V cross V or n times n, right? So of size V cross V. Okay. And why? Because remember, I had these two parameters, one is V, another is I. But then we said that, okay, for now, let's assume that there are no negative cycles in my graph. And if there are no negative cycles, then the shortest path jo bhi hai from S to any vertex, that cannot be using more than n minus 1 number of edges. So ye jo mera second parameter hai is recurrence mein, which is this I can only take values between 0 and n minus 1. Yeah, it cannot be more than that unless there is a negative cycle, which we will handle later on. Okay. And of course, then we have the other parameter, which is V itself, which are the vertices themselves. Okay, good. So how do you initialize? Well, the initialize is straightforward. So path S comma 0 is equal to 0, and path V comma 0 equal to infinity for all V not equal to S. Okay. And now I have to run for loops. So in which order do I fill up this table? Can I do it in any order I like? So typically, I think in the DPs which we saw in lectures before this, the order of filling up the table was not really that crucial, because you could do them in any order and they would produce the correct result. Is this also true in this case? Right? So we have to fill up column wise. Yeah. So this is a bit critical here, because again, how do you justify that? Why do we need to fill up column wise? Well, if you look at the recurrence, when I am talking about path V comma I, so actually let's write that down. We can fill up the for loops later. So path Vi, this is going to be the minimum of path Vi minus 1 and minimum over all WV belongs to E, path WI minus 1. Okay. So what you should notice here is that when you are trying to compute the entry for path V comma I, then you actually need potentially all the entries which are in the I minus 1th column. Yeah, because you don't know which are the W's that you will be required, that you require to compute path V comma I. So you actually need all the entries in the previous column. If you do this the other way around, then you cannot do this. Okay. Okay. So for I equals to 0, 0 to hai already. Let's say 1 to n minus 1. Okay. And for V belongs to V. So you just write this thing. That's it. That's your DP. Okay. Right. Okay. So if I want to find the shortest path to some vertex, what should I return? Suppose I want to find the shortest path to T. Then what should this return after we fill up the table? Yeah. So it should return path T n minus 1. Yeah. So this is the optimal answer, right? Because that's like so you have the full budget and what is the best that you can do. Okay, so this is assuming that you are trying to find the shortest path from S to T. If you don't want that, then, well, you just return the whole matrix and you can, access the shortest path as you need. Okay, so fairly straightforward, right? Good. Okay, so what we'll do today, so we have a couple of more tasks. So first of all, I will show you a few okay, first of all, we have to argue the runtime. Then we will do a couple of small optimizations to this code. Okay, so there is one space optimization. I think some of you have guessed it by now. The other is you can also stop this algorithm even before reaching the end. Sometimes under some situation you can do that. You don't have to run it till the end. And then we will see how to adopt this algorithm to detect any negative cycles in your graph. Okay, so those are the three things that we will do. Shivam, so no, so path t n minus 1 will not work if there are negative cycles. In that case, we will not return this thing. Then we will detect the negative cycle and we will say that there is a negative cycle. So I am not, I'm not responsible to output the shortest path. Okay, so let's quickly run through this example once, because I think this algorithm, I mean, it's easy to write, but when you think about how the updates are going on, it's sometimes good to actually see through an example. Okay, so my eyes are going here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and my vertices are, so let's say S, F, B, E, A, and D. Okay, okay, and you are going to help me fill this up because I tend to make a mess of these things. Okay, so S comma 0, we said that this is going to be 0 always. For the other vertices, this is going to be infinity. Okay, so that's the first column. This is the base case. Okay, so how do we fill up the second column now? Okay, so for S, I think in this case it's very trivial. There are no negative cycles in my graph. I have made sure that's not the case. So I will just inherit the value of 0. Now, what should be the value of F comma 1? 5. Okay, so okay, so एक तो ये picture देख के पता चल रहा है कि this should be 5 because the shortest path from S to F, which uses only one edge, that's clearly going to be 5. But let's see if our recurrence also gives us the correct answer. Okay, so which case of the recurrence will I take if I want to reach 5? Clearly it's the second case, because first case though is infinity. So if I just want to inherit the column which is on my left, ये तो infinity दे रहा है मुझे, but now I have a finite value for the second case. In particular, which is the edge that is responsible for this 5? It's the edge which is SF. Okay, so I am in the second case, and the sub case that I'm looking at is the edge SF. Okay, that's giving me a value of 5. There is another incoming edge to F as well. Which is the other incoming edge? BF is the other incoming edge. अगर उस एज को मैं कंसीडर करता हूं तो what does the recurrence give me? Well, b comma what is it? Yeah, so b comma 0 is infinity. Yeah, and then that option will give me infinity minus 3, which is also infinity. Okay, so clearly I should choose the value of 5 here. So there's a competition between infinity and 5, so clearly I should choose 5. Okay, everyone clear about why this is the case? How about b comma 1? It should be 7, I guess, right? So it should be 7. Yeah, and the rest will still remain infinity. Okay, please be very careful. I tend to make mistakes, so please tell me if I'm making mistakes. Okay, so now we go to the next column. So we are 0 here. How about F? Great. So this is one interesting case, right? So people are saying that now I should change the value to 4. Why should I change the value to 4? Again, let's look at all the options. Okay. So when I'm trying to fill up this particular entry, what are the options that I have? Ek to I will just directly look to my left. Okay. So there I have a value of 5. What are the other options? Okay, let's look at the incoming edges to F. So the two incoming edges are, one is B comma F, the other is S comma F. Okay, so S comma F to kind of we have already considered, right? So that's not needed. So now let's say, what is B comma S giving me? Well, I look at the column which is on my left and I look at the corresponding entry to B now. Okay, and this entry is 7. Okay, so the recurrence tells me that you take this entry and you add the length of this edge. So if I do that, then that gives me a value of 4. So clearly 4 wins here. Okay, so essentially I'm fetching the value from here this time. Okay, so this should be 4. Okay, how about b comma 2? It's going to be the same, I guess, right? So it's still going to be 7. I don't think it's going to change at all. Okay, how about e? E comma 2, should I inherit infinity or can I do something else? It's 8 now. Okay, why is it 8? Because again, again look at the incoming edges to E. What are the incoming edges to E? Well, the only incoming edge to E is FE. So I look at the column on my left. The entry to F is 5 on the left column, like the immediately left column. And then I add the length of this edge, which is 3. So this gives me a value of 8. Okay. Please note that बाकी दोनों के लिए इस iteration में आपका कोई change नहीं होगा. This is where sometimes people are a bit confused. Yeah, that ये मैंने 8 कर दिया, but इसका मतलब, I mean, this is why, you know, it's good to start visualizing Bellman-Ford in the form of a column-wise filling, right? We will, of course, you know, do optimization. We don't need all these tables and all that. You know, many of you have guessed it by now. But this is why it's good to visualize. कि इस iteration में A and D का कोई change नहीं होने वाला है. Yeah, this will still remain infinity. And if you cross check, if you do a sanity check with the definition, what is A comma 2 saying? A comma 2 is saying what is the shortest path length from S to A that uses at most 2 edges. So clearly there is no such path. So it's correct. So the recurrence is ये जो infinity दे रहा है, this is the correct thing to write. Okay. तो ये 0 हो गया. अब क्या होगा? Is anything going to change for F? Or should I just inherit 4? Okay, so I just ठीक है. अच्छा, E का क्या हो जाएगा अभी? How about E now? Very good. So E is going to undergo a change. Why is that? Because E के लिए क्या क्या option है? So E comma 3 के लिए one option is 8. Yeah, you look immediately to your left. What are the other options? Well, let's look at the incoming edges to E. The only incoming edge to E is F, right? Now, what is the value of the column corresponding to F on your left? Well, it's a 4, right? So if I add 4 to 3, that gives me a 7 now. So if I take the minimum of 7 and 8, then clearly I should say 7. And again, let's do a sanity check. This means that the shortest path from S to E, at least this table tells me that the shortest path from S to E is actually of length 7. And is that correct? Clearly it's correct because I can take this path. Yeah, 7 minus 3 plus 3, which is a 7. Okay. Okay. Is A going to have something now? A का कुछ हो सकता है? It's going to be 6. Okay. Why is it going to be 6? Because again, now I have this incoming edge from E. So if I look at the column E on my left, I have an 8 here, and I add minus 2. So clearly I can have 6 here. Yeah. And D does not have any change. So D just remains. ठीक है. So ये ऐसे चलता जाएगा. Okay, I think now you have got the hang of it. So please fill up the rest 2 columns all by yourself. I'm not going to spend any more time. So any questions about this anymore? Is it absolutely clear how the table is getting filled? Okay, so this is essentially Bellman-Ford's algorithm. Okay, great. Okay, okay. Shall I move on? Okay, so let's talk about the runtime first of this algorithm that we have written. Okay, so what is the runtime of my algorithm? Okay, so there are a lot of answers, which is okay. So the answer one was, order v cubed. Okay, actually let's go back to the pseudocode. Okay. Okay, so one answer was v cubed, and let's see why he said v cubed. Okay, so typically, I find the easiest way to decide on the running time of a DP is how many entries are there, because I'm filling up all the entries at the end of the day, और हर एक entry के लिए मुझे कितना run time spend करना पड़ रहा है. Okay, so I look at one entry and I just see how much time I spend with this entry multiplied by the number of entries. Now clearly the size of my table is order n square. In fact, it's exactly n square. Yeah. So the only thing that remains to be seen is how much time I am spending with each with each entry. तो कितना time spend कर रहा है? Well, inside I am looking at all its in neighbors, right? एक तो option, this is the easy option, but potentially for a particular entry, ये जो vertex है, मैं उसका in neighbors को देख रहा हूँ, है ना? So that should then take another v amount of time. Okay, so which is what gives me this bound of order n cube. Okay, so order n cube is it's a correct upper bound, no question about that. It's clearly a correct upper bound. Okay, now in case your graph is dense, okay, so what do I mean by a dense graph? By dense graph I mean a graph which has roughly n square or order n square number of edges. Yeah, so in that case this bound is actually tight. Okay, but it turns out that I can do a somewhat better analysis in terms of the number of edges and the number of vertices of the graph. And why do I say that that analysis is sometimes better? Because if your graph is sparse, if your graph is not so dense, okay, but sometimes you can have a graph which has way fewer number of edges than there potentially can be. For example, if you take a tree, it has only n-1 edges. It has linear number of edges. So let's see if we can get a slightly better upper bound for this runtime. Not slightly, a better upper bound for the runtime. Okay, so how do I analyze that? Or what is going to be? So what is going to be the runtime? So there were some opinions about how to do this. Let's see. Let's look at the chat. Okay, Taral, can you explain that a bit? Can you just unmute yourself and tell us what you want to say? So Taral says that the inner loop is sum of in degrees of v, and the outer loop is an outer loop runs v minus 1 time. So Taral, you want to say this? No. All right. Okay. So here is what is happening really, right? So the point is that let's see. So again, let's try to analyze this algorithm not by just counting loops, but rather by seeing key each edge. So let's say I take a vertex, right? So let's see how many times you are considering every edge in the course of the total number of iteration. So suppose these are the only 3 edges to a particular vertex V. So this is E1, this is E2, and this is E3. Okay. So in your entire run of algorithm, how many times are you considering this edge? That will dominate the sort of runtime as far as this vertex is concerned. So everyone understands what I'm trying to say? In the entire run of your algorithm, how many times will you actually consider this particular edge? Well, it's as many as the number of outer loops that you are making. ठीक है? Clearly, if you look at the pseudocode, देखिए ये जो outer loop है, ये n-1 times चल रहा है, okay? और let's say n times चल रही है. तो एक लूप के अंदर एक एज तो एक ही बार आप उसको यूज करेंगे इन दिस पर्टिकुलर. ओके, देयर इज अ मिस्टेक हियर, राइट? इट इज LWV. ओके, तो ये जो एज WV है, इसको आप एक लूप के अंदर आप तो एक ही बार यूज कर रही है ना? राइट? सो एवरी एज is actually considered exactly once inside one outer loop. Okay, if I look at it in a sort of a aggregate fashion, okay, and the number of loops are clearly order V. तो अगर every edge order V bar considered हो रहा है, then well, it's just V times E. That's the runtime of your algorithm. Okay, ठीक है? So the answer 2 is every edge is considered n-1 times. Okay, and this implies the runtime is order mod V times mod E. Okay, so you should get into the habit of looking at this aggregate analysis. Yeah, so sometimes just counting loops will give you it's not incorrect, of course. N cube is a correct bound, but it's not the best possible bound in some sense. Yeah, so you should always look for these aggregate kind of things. Questions? Okay, so that's about the runtime. Now, as I said, there are a couple of optimizations which I can hint at. So one thing is, let's do it in this page. So one thing is stopping early. So this is essentially this is an optimization of the running time. So I claim that sometimes I can stop the procedure a bit earlier. Okay, so can anyone tell me when can I stop the procedure? So is there any condition? So ये मान लीजिए ये loop हमारी चल रही है. Okay, so the outer loop is supposed to run V-1 times. Okay, Kevin has a question. If we are talking about worst case, do we consider the worst case graph or do we say the worst case for any graph? No. We consider the worst case graph. So whenever I say worst case runtime, it means that the worst case instances for this algorithm. That's always the underlying assumption. Yeah, what is the worst that can happen for this algorithm? Okay, for a particular graph, worst best का मतलब क्या है? वो तो same ही होगा, right? For a given graph, the runtime is just the runtime. It's only a single number. Yeah, so it's only over all instances. Yeah. No, what do you mean? Yeah. So Kevin, that's what I said. So I'm not saying that n cube and m times n is comparable. So if you have a dense graph, then n cube is tight. But if you have a sparse graph, then m times n will give you a better bound. Okay. So suppose your application domain that only considers sparse graphs. So then you should not say that your runtime is n cube. You should say it's m times n. Yeah. I mean, anyway, the algorithm is not changing here, right? So the algorithm is the same. Yeah. Okay. So let's say you restrict yourself to the class of sparse graphs, then m times n gives you a better bound. Is all I'm saying. Okay. Okay, good. So coming back to our question. So I claim that sometimes the algorithm can be stopped early. So who can tell me? Okay, so Shivam is saying when there are no updates. So what does he mean really? What he means by there is no update is, suppose, so remember hamari outer loop chal rahi hai, right? It's for I equals to 1 to n minus 1, I have this outer loop. Now suppose in some iteration of the outer loop, you find that सारे जो रोज है ये exactly copy हो गया left hand side से. There is no update at all. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that suppose there is an iteration I such that जो p I comma v है that is equal to p I minus 1 comma v for all v. This is important. So if this happens for some I, then I can just stop my algorithm there. ठीक है, क्योंकि उसके बाद तो कुछ अपडेट होगा नहीं, राइट? उसके बाद अगर आप फिर से पी आई प्लस 1v कंप्यूट करोगे, सो इफ यू कंप्यूट पी आई प्लस 1v, तो क्या होगा? वो यही वैल्यू इनहेरिट कर लेगा फिर से, क्योंकि रिमेंबर देयर वर नो अपडेट्स इन योर लास्ट कॉलम. सो द last to last column and the last column is looking exactly the same. तो अगर ऐसा situation हो गया in your algorithm, then you can just stop. You don't need to run your algorithm till the end. Yeah, because the same values are going to be copied again and again and again. So that's a wastage. Yeah, everyone clear? So let me write it clearly. If for some I, p v comma I is equal to p v comma I minus 1 for all v, then we can stop. Okay? So that's sometimes a practical optimization that you can do. Okay, and you don't need like m times n runtime in that case. Okay, clear? Okay. So that's the runtime optimization. I mean, not really in the worst case, but this is like a practical thing. Okay, now let's talk about space. Okay, so clearly this algorithm, the way we have described it so far, it requires n square amount of space. Why? Because I am filling up a table of n square. The question is, do I really need that? Okay. Again, remember this, the way we have written the algorithm so far, it's very intuitive, and I think the proof of correctness is much more easy to do if you write the algorithm this way or design the algorithm in this fashion. But now that we have designed it and we know that this works, the question now is, do we really need this table? Or can we do something smarter as far as space is concerned? Okay, so Shivam says that you can just maintain the last two columns. Okay, so what does he mean by that? So remember again, whenever you ask such questions, just look at your recurrence. ठीक है, तो आपका recurrence आपको क्या बोल रहा है? Recurrence आपको यही बोल रही है, whenever you are computing a particular column, remember we are going column wise here. So when you are computing a particular column, which is the only column that you are looking at? Well, the only column that you are looking at is the column which is immediately on your left. बाकी तो कोई भी column आप use नहीं कर रहे हो. ठीक है? So when you are at the ith column, the only column that you are using to compute the shortest path length, that's just the column I minus 1. ठीक है? तो आप बस उसको स्टोर कर लो, फिर आपको बाकी सारे स्टोर करने की जरूरत है ही नहीं. So instead of keeping a 2-dimensional array, you just keep 2 unidimensional array. Okay. So one that will keep your sort of the current value and one that will keep the previous value. In fact, I think even 2 is not required. Even 1 is sufficient. Okay. But the idea essentially is that you just need to maintain. So let's say is algorithm is जो example है. When I'm trying to fill up the column 4, all I need is the information that is stored here. और तो कुछ हमें चाहिए नहीं. ठीक है? So you just maintain one column and that's it. ठीक है? Everybody understands what I'm saying? So that's a huge space optimization that you can make. So think of a graph which has, I don't know, maybe even 100 nodes, right? So from n square amount of memory, you suddenly brought it down to n, which is fantastic. And if you think about it, it's very non-trivial because remember this algorithm, ये बहुत कुछ compute कर रहा है. This is not only computing the shortest path from S to one vertex. This is in fact computing the shortest path from S to all the vertices that are reachable. So it's actually computing order n number of quantities. So here you have designed an algorithm which uses order n space and actually produces order n quantities, which is highly, it should be very impressive. Okay. So any questions about these things? But यहाँ पे एक छोटा सा problem है. So who can tell me अगर मैं ये implementation करता हूँ तो एक छोटा सा, not छोटा सा, I mean there is some trouble. Yeah, right. So Kevin says that, yeah. So I'm not sure a single column will work. Maybe you actually need 2 arrays. Yeah, but yeah, because yeah, if something is overwritten, but you should fetch the last value. That's correct. Yeah. I agree. You need to. Yes, I take it back. So you actually need the last 2 columns. That's true. Last 2 matlab the last one and whatever is the current one. Those 2, you need pointers for both of them. That's correct. Yes. Okay. Great. अच्छा, but सब ठीक है, ये तो अच्छा है, but एक तो problem है यहाँ पे. तो क्या problem है? If I use this optimization, what is the one problem that I might face? So there is something which I cannot do if I use this implementation versus the other one. If I do the other one, then I can do that. So what is this thing that I cannot do? Very good. Okay. So what Utkrishт is saying that recovery becomes a problem, right? देखिए, ये तो shortest path length है. But suppose your application demands the actual shortest path from S to some other vertex. तो वो आप कैसे recover करेंगे? ये table आपके पास है तो that's very easy to recover. You will just use the back pointers as we have discussed several times. So you start, suppose you want to find the real shortest path, from S to D. So ठीक है, you start with this corner and you just trace back the pointers. What I mean by pointer, you see कि ये वाला जो value है, ये कहाँ से inherit हुआ था. It will be some entry in the previous column. So you just check कहाँ से वो inherit हुआ. So that's your first pointer. That's sort of the parent of D. फिर आप देखिए वो वाला जो entry है, वो कहाँ से inherit हुआ था in the previous column. तो ऐसे आप backtrack कर सकते हो. Okay. But now there is a trouble, right? If you just maintain these 2 columns, how are you going to do the recovery? Okay. So that's a problem. Now it turns out, I'm not going to discuss this because it makes the discussion messy and all that, but please read it up. It's written in the book. Now it turns out quite magically that it suffices to keep the last pointer for every vertex. What do I mean the last pointer? It means कि last time जब ये update हुआ था, तब ये जहां से इनहेरिट किया था वो स्टोर करना इज एक्चुअली एनफ. Okay, so it suffices to store the last sort of vertex that was responsible for the updation of this particular guy. Yeah, so again I'm being deliberately hand wavy here, but you should go back and read the book. So there are a couple of things that you need to understand, that why this works. I mean, blindly you can just use this. So whenever you know a particular value is updated, you just keep the vertex that is responsible for its update. If it's not updated, then you don't do anything. तो ऐसे ऐसे आप backtrack करके path आपको recover हो जाएगा. But why this works is not immediately clear. It's much more clear if you look at this table as a whole, but it's not clear why it should work that way. Okay, but yeah, that's a bit messy of a discussion, so I will avoid that. But yeah, if you are satisfied with distances, then this is complete. Okay. So any question about Bellman-Ford? Okay. So then the only thing that remains to be discussed about this algorithm is this issue of detecting negative cycles. Detecting negative cycles. Okay. So let's just take stock of what we know. So what we have proved in the previous lecture is the following, that no negative cycle implies that shortest path from S to V will use at most n-1 edges. Okay, for all V. Okay, so that's what we have proved. Now somehow we want to use this property to be able to detect cycles. Okay, so I have already got one one suggestion, which is that why don't I just run the loop just one more time? Okay, so what Shivam is suggesting, अभी तक मेरा loop जो है वो n-1 iterations तक चल रहा था. Why don't I just compute the one more column of my DP table? Okay, so here is the idea. So idea is run Bellman-Ford for one extra iteration. ठीक है? So what should I check now? So suppose I ran Bellman-Ford for one more iteration. Now, okay, again, intuitively. So when should I say, after running this, when should I say that there is a negative cycle? And when should I say that there is no negative cycle? So Kevin, that's a very hand-wavy way to say it, right? What do you mean last two columns are same? So good. Okay. So here is what Shivam is suggesting. So I run Bellman-Ford for one extra iteration. Now, if path V comma n is less than path V comma n-1 for some V, okay, this is not required for every V. कोई भी V अगर ऐसा मिल जाता है आपको for some V, right, then output negative cycle. Okay, importantly, otherwise output no negative cycle. Okay. So I run Bellman-Ford for one more iteration. If I find that the path value decreases for some vertex, कोई भी vertex हो सकता है, including S, okay? अगर ऐसा होता है, then I just output there is a negative cycle. अगर ऐसा नहीं होता है, कोई भी vertex I don't find, then I will just say there are no negative cycles. Okay, correct? So the question is, so is the procedure, is a modification to Bellman-Ford clear to everybody, or there are still some doubts? Okay. So what we need to justify now is the following. Oh, this is finished. That's a problem. Let's find a blank page. Okay, good. Okay, I have a couple of blank pages here. Okay, so what are we saying here? So what is the main claim? Now, whenever you do such a thing, you should ask yourself, why is this procedure correct? Yeah. So why? I mean, ऐसे आपने बोल दिया कि ठीक है, एक बार और run कर लो, and if you find that the thing is decreasing, then there has to be a negative cycle. But अगर वो नहीं decrease कर रहा है किसी के लिए भी, then there cannot be a negative cycle. Yeah, this is a very strong claim that I'm making now. So let's write the claim first. What we are claiming. So claim is, yeah, no negative cycle reachable from S if and only if for all V path V comma n minus 1 is equal to path V comma n. Okay. Okay. So I have to prove both the directions, right? That if there are no negative cycles that are reachable from S, then this implies that all these should hold for every vertex. Yes. But agar ye hold karta hai for every vertex, then I should also be able to prove that there are no negative cycles in my graph. Because remember, I am outputting something for both the conditions. If I find this condition to be true for some vertex, I am confidently saying that there is a negative cycle. And if I don't find this condition to be true, if I find this condition to be false for some vertex, then I'm outputting that there are no negative cycles. But ये सबके लिए true है, तो मैं confidently बोल रहा हूँ कि there cannot be a negative cycle. That needs a proof. That's not clear at all. Okay. So let's do this. So whenever there is an if and only if, you should do both sides of the proof. Okay. So which direction did we do actually last time? Which direction do you think we have already done when we discussed negative cycles? Yeah. So how should we prove this? Proof. Okay. So suppose you are asked to prove this fact. How will you prove this? Okay. So how will we prove the left to right direction? That's not a nice way to. So Kevin said, if there are negative cycles, then the list will keep on decreasing. That's not clear. I'm just trying to prove this claim, right? I just want to prove the left to right direction, that if there are no negative cycles that are reachable from S, this is a technical requirement, but assume kar lo ye hai requirement. So if there are no negative cycles that are reachable from S, then I want to claim that for all V, the Bellman-Ford iteration will remain unchanged for this column. So how do we prove this formally? Contradiction. So which direction? What do you want to contradict? Okay, so you want to say that there are no negative cycles, but there exists some vertex for which this is not true. Yeah, so that should be the way. Okay, so suppose this direction is not true, that there are no negative cycles reachable from S, but there exists some vertex for which this is not true. Okay, so suppose not true. Suppose not true. Okay, तो नॉट ट्रू का मतलब क्या है? नॉट ट्रू का मतलब यह है कि ठीक है, नेगेटिव साइकिल है, बट दिस फैक्ट इज नॉट ट्रू फॉर ऑल वर्टिसेस, तो व्हिच मींस देयर इज वन वर्टेक्स फॉर व्हिच दिस इज नॉट ट्रू. ओके, सो दिस इंप्लाइज देयर exists one vertex, say V prime, for which path V comma n is less than path V comma n minus 1. है ना? यही कर रहे हैं हम. So we are assuming for the sake of contradiction that there exists some vertex V prime for which this is true. But what does this imply? So अगर ये true है, so yeah, but these are very, what is the only thing that you like, what is the contradiction here? See, when you write a proof, you have to arrive at a contradiction. So I am not seeing any contradiction so far. So far हमने जो लिखा है कि ठीक है, नेगेटिव साइकिल नहीं है, sorry, negative cycle nahi hai, and then we claim that this left to right direction is not true, which means there exists a vertex V prime such that this equality does not hold. The equality does not hold matlab hai ki path V prime comma n, any, very good. Okay, so that's the way you should prove it properly, right? So okay, so what does this mean? Agar ye true hai, then what does this mean? This means that this implies that shortest path to V prime uses a cycle, है ना? क्योंकि उस पाथ में n number of edges है, right? And it's strictly better than the path which is of length n minus 1, at most n minus 1. तो उसका मतलब है कि ये जो shortest path है from S to V prime, that uses a cycle. Yeah, we have proved this last time, all these arguments. तो अगर वो cycle है और ये चीज true है, ये less than equal है, तो वो cycle किस type का cycle है? What kind of a cycle is that? So basically what we are saying is that ये S से V prime तक का कोई path है जिसमें n number of edges है, तो उसका मतलब है कि कोई एक cycle है इसके बीच, और ये जो टोटल पाथ है S से ये साइकिल लेके फिर V प्राइम पहुंचने का, you are claiming that that path has a lower cost than the path which does not use a cycle. The only way that can happen is if this cycle has a negative cost. Okay, so this implies cycle is negative, and that, my friends, is a contradiction. Okay, क्योंकि आपका प्रीमाइज क्या था? आपका प्रीमाइज ये था कि देयर आर नो नेगेटिव साइकिल्स इन योर ग्राफ. तो आपने स्टार्ट किया विथ नो नेगेटिव साइकिल, फिर आपने अज्यूम किया कि ये ट्रू नहीं है किसी एक वर्टेक्स के लिए, and you arrive at the conclusion that there has to be a negative cycle. That is what we call a contradiction. Okay, so that's the contradiction. Clear? सबको clear हो गया ये? Right? Okay. Any questions? So this was the relatively easy direction. Now we have to prove the other direction as well. कि अगर ये सबके लिए true है, can I confidently say that there are no negative cycles? That is the question that I should be asking. Okay. So let's prove that other direction. So what is the other direction? Sorry, this direction. So path v comma n is equal to path v comma n minus 1 for all v. Okay, this implies no cycle is negative. Okay, yeah, and this proof is slightly more non-trivial than the previous one. So let's just do the proof. Okay, so let's just write the recurrence, right? So what is the recurrence? So basically path v comma n is equal to, so let's just recall it. So this is minimum of path v comma n minus 1 and path w comma n minus 1 plus L of wv for all wv belongs to E. है ना? ठीक है? So now let me introduce some notation. Okay, so what is my premise? मेरा premise ये है कि this quantity and this quantity are equal. तो पहले जब भी आप कोई proof करने जा रहे हो, you should remember what your premise is. Your premise is that this is equal for all vertices in my graph. ठीक है? तो मैं I'll introduce a notation. So let path v comma n equal to path v comma n minus 1. This is my premise. और इसको मैं बस एक notation दे देता हूँ. Let me call this dv. Okay, this is just a notation. तो अगर ये notation ऐसा है, right? So what can I? So how can I modify the recurrence with this particular notation? तो ये जो notation हमने introduce किया अभी, how can I possibly modify my recurrence? I mean, it's just a notational thing, but just to make sure you understand. इसको मैं क्या लिख सकता हूँ? So this is just dv, right? Yeah. What is this quantity? It's dw. Yeah, as per my definition, this is nothing but dw. ठीक है? Okay, good. Now let's just use the recurrence. जो recurrence हमने लिखा है, I will use a fact from this recurrence. So what is the fact? The fact is कि dv is less than or equal to dw plus lvw. Sorry, lwv. Okay. Why could I write this? Why is this true? For all wv belongs to E. Why is this true? Why is this inequality true? Clearly, very good, Utkrisht. So what Utkrisht is saying is, देखिए हम इन सब का मिनिमम ले रहे हैं, राइट? तो हम जिन चीजों का मिनिमम ले रहे हैं उनमें से एक क्वांटिटी मैंने लिखा है यहाँ पे, which is dw plus lwv. That is one of these options. तो अगर I am taking a minimum over several options, then that quantity which is dv that can be at most one of those quantities. उससे बड़ा तो नहीं हो सकता, because you're taking the minimum of all of them. Equal नहीं कह सकते, remember. All we can say is this is less than or equal to. ठीक है? तो इसको मैं थोड़ा ढंग से लिखूं तो क्या मतलब है? LD is greater than equals to dV minus dW. Okay? ठीक है? So this is a fact. And this is true for every edge in your graph. So is this clear so far? What dV is, what dW is? Yeah, just digest this a little bit. Okay, so again, let's just go over it. So what we have so far. So my premise is that my Bellman-Ford ka jo last iteration tha, that gives me this fact, that path V comma n is equal to path Vn minus 1. So I introduced a notation for this common quantity, which is dV. And I just, I just derived this inequality from this occurrence, okay, which gives me that the length is at most, sorry, the length is at least dV minus dW. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now हमें proof क्या करना है? Now हमें proof करना है कि no cycle is negative. तो कोई बताएगा अभी कैसे इसको use करके मैं वो proof कर सकता हूँ? So how can I prove that no cycle is negative by using this fact? थोड़ा ट्राई करेंगे 5 मिनट. So remember, this is true for every edge in the graph. Yeah, because you are checking Bellman-Ford for every possible vertex. तो सबके लिए ये recurrence लिखेंगे और हर एक जो edge है मेरी ग्राफ में वो कभी ना कभी तो आएगा ये particular expression में. So this is true for every directed edge in my graph, that LVW is greater than or equals to dV minus dW. Now, how will you use this fact to show that any cycle has to have a non-negative length? Okay, so what's the easiest thing to do here? Well, the easiest thing to do here is take a cycle. तो कोई भी cycle आप fix कर लो. Yeah, just fix any cycle of your choice. है ना? Okay. तो suppose ये V1, V2, V3, V4 ऐसे चल रहा है. V4, V5. Okay. So what is the total length of this cycle? So अगर ये cycle C है, what is L of C? Well, the L of C is just the sum of the edges, right? So this is equal to L V1 V2 plus L V2 V3 plus L of V3 V4 and so on and so forth. तो इस quantity के बारे में what can I say? What kind of a quantity is this? So this quantity is greater than equals to 0. Why is this greater than equals to 0? Because I will just use this fact. Okay. So what should this look like? This will just look like d v2 minus dv1 plus dv3 minus dv2 है ना, plus dv4 minus dv3. ऐसे ये चलता रहेगा. तो हर एक जो वर्टेक्स है in this cycle that appears as a head and a tail of exactly one edge. तो हर वर्टेक्स को एक बार हेड बनना है, एक बार टेल बनना है. जब वो हेड बनेगा तब वो प्लस साइन से आएगा, जब वो टेल बनेगा तब वो माइनस साइन से आएगा, राइट? या फिर द अदर वे अराउंड. बट द होल पॉइंट इज दैट all these cancels out, yeah, and this gives you a 0. Okay, this is greater than equals to. So that means that the total length of all the edges in your cycle can sum up to at most 0. उससे at least 0. उससे कम नहीं हो सकता. Okay. So if this is true, the premise that we have, that this is true for all vertex, that path v comma n is equal to path v comma n minus 1 for all v, then this implies that no cycle in my graph can be negative. And remember, this is not a special cycle. I just took any arbitrary cycle and I proved this fact. Okay, so this completes the correctness of the cycle detection part of Bellman-Ford. Okay, the two things together, the one which we proved in the previous page and the one that we proved here. Okay, अब बताइए questions. Okay. So hopefully now all the mysterious things of Bellman-Ford. Why it is NP hard? So Shivam, here we are not outputting the cycle-free shortest path. Yeah, all we are saying is, agar negative cycle hai, so all we are saying is ki then I don't know what to do. There is a negative cycle. Forget about it. We are outputting the negative. We are outputting the correct answer only if there is no negative cycle. That is not an NP hard problem. NP hard problem is कि अगर आपके ग्राफ में negative cycle है, but you are asked to find the cycle free shortest path, that is an NP complete problem. Okay, but here तो हम वो कर ही नहीं रहे हैं. We are just detecting a negative cycle and we are saying that yeah, we cannot do anything. So that's a good clarifying question. Okay, so you can ask questions. I am here.